I thought tonight for this game against Sporting Lisbon, with the Blues already leading 5-0 from the first leg, that I'd do a slightly different focus. So rather than talk to fans, I'm going to talk to journalists. I mean, I'm a journalist. I'm working at this game for Sony TV India, as I do for the Champions League games. So today I'm in the press box, and I will be covering a little bit later on the build-up to the game on Indian television. But down the years, I've heard so many City fans, so many football fans, claiming that there's an agenda against City in the media, that people try to say nasty things about City just to get numbers on Twitter, on social media or whatever, or to write negative stories in the press. Now, I'm not pretending I'm going to speak to every member of the press today, but I'm going to try and speak to a cross-section and find out if they agree with that, if they think there is. Be interesting to see what they say and what they think of tonight's game. So let's meet one or two members of the press.
To be honest with you, I've never heard the negativity, and it's something that I've never had a conversation about. I think we judge what we see. If a side is successful, enjoyable and fantastic to watch, then we talk about it. And we pretty much talk about Man City every single week, because every single week they seem to be winning football matches. You're winning titles, you're winning trophies. Still a question mark over this Champions League. No, we're going to see tonight. Obviously, I think they will progress through to the quarterfinals, but they're not far away. They've reached a final now. They've got over that hurdle of maybe reaching the quarterfinals, semi-finals. They've now got to a final. I think that experience over the last 11 years will put them in good stead this season. And you look at the squad, the way they're playing, I think there's only good vibes coming out of that football club. And from a talk sport perspective, I can only speak from my behalf. Whenever I come here, I love watching Man City play football. It's a joy to come to this stadium. I think the atmosphere in the stadium has got better over the years as well. And they know they're going places. They're winning domestic trophies, but I think it's now ready to win European titles as well.
First and foremost, the media love a good story. So when City were in the third tier, and in the cup competition they beat a Premier League team, or they got a promotion or something, that was a great story, because the lower down team, who you didn't expect to do great, did great. And wow, and the media love all of that. The flip side, so you can't say at that stage the media have got an agenda against Man City. The flip side is City have now become the Goliath, and then it's when the Davids come up against City. Yes, as a commentator, tonight, would I love Sporting to get 3 early goals? Of course I would, because that would make it exciting. You know, now if you're a diehard City fan, you want City to score 3 and you want them to go on to set a new Champions League record high scores. But there's no jeopardy there. There's no edge of your seat. Frankly, people will switch over and they'll watch a different game tonight if City are easing at it. So if you want to call it a bias, you can, but it's not that they don't want City to do well. It's an amazing story. I think the media have got on board with it, this rise up through. And I remember my favourite period covering City was the Keegan days and Benarbia and Berkovic. And that was the most enjoyable City team I think I've ever seen. And I know the standards then went crazy with Yaya Toure and Aguero and all that, but back in those days was brilliant. And I think the media get on board when a team is doing really well. But this is the price of success, and Manchester United had it with Alex Ferguson in the past. There was nothing the media loved more than when Fergie was under pressure and he needed to pull out a win. Why? Not that they didn't like United, not that they had a bias agenda against them. It's just more interesting, and people are big into it. So yeah, look here tonight. Of course, I'm enjoying watching Manchester City, and I hope we get to see some of the talented youngsters who you mightn't always see every week. But yeah, you want to see them sweat a little bit, and that's not a bias against them. You know, show us how good you are.
I think clickbait is just a modern phenomenon. I think a lot of people are under pressure to get page views and so on. But I don't think. I think that genuine football journalists who are covering City or any other club don't go for clickbait as such. I think there's a lot of websites and there's a lot of people employed around the periphery of sports journalism whose job it is to get page views, and if that means a little bit of clickbait, well, fair enough. But I mean, the definition of clickbait is a strange one as well. I think there is, you know, I've written stories and been accused of clickbait, and it hasn't been clickbait. It's been my genuine opinion, or it's been something that I thought was worth addressing. So you know, it's a difficult area, but clickbait does exist, we know it does, but I think genuine football journalists, and there are a lot of us about, not just at the Manchester Evening News, I think that genuine football journalists don't go in for it.
I'm wary of what I'm saying, because I don't want people to take it out of context. I don't want people to think this is the thing, because I know a few years ago Martin Samuel said, you know, Liverpool and United are the biggest clubs, so it's easy to cater to them. And I think now every City fan believes that's how it works. There is truth in that, but it's not perfect. But I think there's not too many editors and people around, in my experience, that support City or pay enough attention to City to kind of understand how it works. So maybe they'll watch it and go, let's say tonight Pep doesn't play many young players. An editor could easily say, oh, what's all that about? And then if it's up to the reporter then to be like, actually, this is how he does it. Whereas maybe if you had an editor who paid more attention to United because there's more going on, or grew up supporting United or Liverpool, you'd be a bit more tuned in to what's going on. Whereas with City, generally there isn't huge representation, but then it's down to the reporters to kind of be like, well, actually, we're there every week. This is how it works, that's how it works. You know, if Pep says this, this is why, kind of thing. Because if you're in the office in London, let's say, and again, maybe this is an unfair generalisation, but you might think, why is he saying that? What's all that about? Because you're not across every Pep Guardiola press conference. But us guys in Manchester, you know, we do have more of an idea of how it works, and that's where kind of the duty comes in. But I mean, look, it won't always be editors. You know, there'll be people who are critical of City or talk about big issues regarding City who obviously don't feel any guilt about that because they feel it's the right thing to talk about, and it'll be what they feel is interesting. You know, if they feel that, you know, not just City's wealth, but the wealth of the top clubs, even including Liverpool, not just PSG, isn't good for the game, you know, that'll be what they want to write about. It won't necessarily be an editor saying this is this, this is this. I genuinely don't think there's going to be an editor out there saying, right, City have won 5-0, can we go and kill them? You know, I genuinely do not believe that's going to be the case. It's up to everybody to have their own opinions. And look, there'll be journalists out there who think I'm way too soft on City. You know, I've been covering City for 5-6 years. How many articles have I written on the owners? Maybe the one at the weekend, and that was putting forward views of City fans. That's because I think that's interesting. There'll be some who have don't even cover City full time, but they've done 50 articles on the owners because they think that's the most important thing. I suppose that just comes down to, you know, individual preference, and there'll be some City fans who feel they want to talk about the owners. There'll be some City fans who think it's a non-starter. That's what it is really, but I can't. It's difficult to sum up.
I've got a more Man United toes than I have Man City toes, and that's an indisputable fact for quite a few papers as well. It's just, you know, they get more clicks, which is unfortunately, you know, that's what's driving the media at the moment. That's what, you know, keeps us all in jobs, you know, because there are more Man United fans and more people want to read about them. But I wouldn't say that there's absolutely no one who wants to read about Man City. It's a hugely growing fan base, isn't it? And a lot more people are becoming interested in them. I mean, you know, you look what they've done here over the last few years, what Pep Guardiola's doing now. You know, it's taking them on to a new level, aren't they? They are the best team in the world, and they are therefore getting more media coverage, and more people actually going and like covering those tours, etc. And I remember in 2016 we went to cover the cancelled game in Beijing between United and City, and there were very few City fans outside the ground. But now, if they had a match, they'd be, you know, more or less on equal footing, I think. So, yeah, no, I definitely think that there will be a time where there is an equal footing in terms of the amount of people covering City and United, you know, right across the world.
I mean, look, let's put it in some sort of context. My team's Charlton, and if you follow any Charlton Twitter, there is a completely divided camp, and we're languishing in League One, and people think everyone's against us, and I think there's an element of all fans think the media's kind of biased because you're looking for examples of where people are unfair to your team, where maybe a commentator who maybe played for United or Liverpool is involved. But within the organisation, no bias, I would say. No, I think there's a genuine, and I mean this heartfelt, a genuine appreciation for what Guardiola, the people behind the scenes have built here. It's a pretty remarkable story, and I think Sky actually, when you consider the moments when City win the trophies and that kind of thing, and the coverage that gets, I think even fans who see things a little bit differently would agree that the coverage is pretty good.
One of the gripes I've heard from them is that if City had played United, the summarising might be Gary Neville or a United fan. If City had played Liverpool, it would be Jamie Carragher. But there's a lack of City journalists, reporters or ex-players out there. I suppose Micah Richards is one of the exceptions now, but why, you know, what do you feel about those comments by some City fans?
I mean, look, I do understand that, but I think City fans, surely, part of that is you've got to enjoy the fact that City fans have got to watch these games and hear Gary Neville or Jamie Carragher get really upset at watching City beat their team. I mean, look, commentators are paid to bring their expertise, and part of it is a bit of fun, isn't it? Because the best moments often are when Gary Neville or Roy Keane are sitting there laying into Manchester United, for example, or when Jamie Carragher and Neville are kind of like poking each other a little bit about that United-Liverpool rivalry. Micah Richards is brilliant. I mean, look, you only have to go back to this weekend, him laughing in the studio with Roy Keane sat there steaming. I mean, look, there's no way that any City fan can not look at that and think that is balanced. Now, it just so happens that two of Sky's main commentators and pundits are linked to other clubs. But look, in the future, that will change, almost certainly. There'll be someone maybe from this current City side, I don't even know, maybe Kevin De Bruyne takes on the role that Thierry Henry did for a long time. You know, there are opportunities there. We would have had Vincent Kompany in a heartbeat if he'd not gone back to Belgium, I promise you. So it'll change, it always does change. When I was growing up, look, I'm now coming up for 40, it was always ex-Liverpool players. It was Hansen, it was Lawrenson from that era. Now, understandably, Gary Neville, perhaps, given the success United had in the 90s, is there, but it'll change. Things always move on, and I do think there is a balance, and I do think, actually, there are efforts now, more than ever, to make sure that there's a balance in the studio, because if nothing else, it makes great telly.
What's the story of the first half then, Martin?
It's a bit of a case of after the Lone Mayor show, isn't it? You know, I think when you're 4-0 up at half time, as they were in the first leg, it's great and it was brilliant to watch. But you know, you're then faced with three halves of not much really, aren't you? So they're very comfortable for City really, and probably fans would take it like this. You know, if it means a place in the last 8, which is obviously what's going to happen. So my colleagues here working away, trying to think of some angles.
So at the moment the headline is after the Lord Mayor's parade.
Yeah, we'll take that. I think I'll settle for that. I think it's great to see a full house here, you know, and it'd be nice to get a goal or two second half, but got 4 on Sunday, didn't they? So maybe it's going to be a quiet one tonight. Save some for Palace on Monday night.
So what's the headline, Paul, from that game?
I don't know really. It's quite. I liked Carson coming out. I thought it was a nice touch, wasn't it? It's 17 years after he last played in competition, so that's always nice seeing it. And he had the best save of the match, didn't he? So yeah, fair play to him. Still got it.
Pep's got a bit of sentiment in it.
Well, that's it. It's quite nice, isn't it? I mean, it must be pretty weird being a third choice goalkeeper. It's not great, is it? You don't get to see much action. I know he gets well paid and all that, but he's quite a popular member of the squad apparently. So. He'll not forget that night, will he? It's quite a fun evening, so fair play to him.
City through to the quarters, pointless evening tonight.
I thought that Scott Carson might be the story tonight.
Yeah, I mean he's certainly the story if he came on because Edison was injured. Nice to see him come on, but it kind of showed the state of the tie that Guardiola was able to brought him on, because his only other appearance for City came when they'd already wrapped up the league.
Straightforward, patient, controlled, just sort of what you expected really. I didn't imagine they'd expend too much energy. He didn't. Thought Fernandinho looked very classy in midfield as always, and great to see Scott Carson coming at the end, and fantastic reception from the City faithful, and a great save from Paulinho. Actually ended up keeping the clean sheet, but I think it was probably the best glimpse of goal that Sporting got across the 180 minutes, to be honest.
How many words have you got to write on that? How do you find those words?
700, fortunately, not too many. It was quite nice with Carson coming at the end. It added a bit of flavour, but To be honest, I spoke a bit about what's ahead really. I think there's a lot of City fans that will be hoping that Liverpool and themselves are kept apart in the quarterfinals. Now English teams can draw each other. There's this intriguing scenario, cheesy, whereby obviously you could potentially have 4 Man City Liverpool games over the course of about a 2-week period next month. I'm not sure I've got the energy to sustain that. I'd rather they met in the final in Paris, but no one's going to want to draw this lot.
You're obviously, I know you're still a player, but you're also getting into the media. The whole vlog that I've been doing tonight is about the media and the perception of City. Okay. What do you think is the perception of City in the media?
I mean, I've only just started doing this type of thing in the media. For me, it's a club that's on the up, it's growing massively, at a very fast pace. Great team to watch, and obviously some unbelievable players, and I'm sure there's more to come from this club. And it's nice to come back here myself and watch these games and be able to do a bit of commentary on it. And it's nice to be involved in it.
What do you think of the game tonight?
Obviously not the best game, but the work was done, the job was done in the away leg, and it was nice to see some of the young lads coming out and playing. Enjoyed watching McAtee coming on at second half, some really nice touches, and looks an exciting talent, and there's some good young talent at City at the minute, so it's nice to see, and some lads from Manchester as well, which is nice, and some really good talent, and lots been invested in the academy, and now it's coming to the fore with all these young lads that are coming up and coming.
In a different era, that would have been you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, possibly. It takes me back a little bit. Obviously a Champions League night is completely different. But when I was coming up around the squad, it was exciting. Just around the time when it was all changing, some good, exciting players coming into the club. So these boys will be loving every minute of it, playing with these top class players, learning from them, and enjoying it.
And so there we have it, the story of the game from a media perspective, the views after the game, and also a few thoughts on whether there is any media bias or agenda against City. You can see Pep, and it's just going now, I think Pep, or perhaps he's doing another interview, and Ilkay Gundogan doing their media interviews after the game. Hope you've enjoyed this little view slightly differently. I'll be back among the fans at Crystal Palace for the next game. Thanks very much to Timpson, the RRG Group, and MusicMagpie for their support of my vlogs, of course, and thanks to you for watching, for sharing, for retweeting, and for supporting the channel. Really appreciate it. Might have been 0-0 tonight, might not have been a stomping victory, but it was 5-0 on aggregate, remember that, and City go through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Great being a Blue, isn't it?